Hey guys, so today we're going to tell you about the founder of one of the most expensive and luxurious car companies in the last 50 years. The Italian industrialist and businessman, Ferruccio Lamborghini. In 1916, Ferruccio Elio Arturo Lamborghini was born in a small town near Cento. He was the first child in a family of simple farmers. And like most Italians then, it seemed like Ferruccio would carry on the family business. No ifs, ands, or buts. But that but was young Lamborghini's constant dream to do something else. His favorite toys were his father's tools. He always held on to his father's wrenches and screwdrivers, small pliers, bolts, and screws that always went missing from his father's workshop. His father taught him from an early age to work on the farm and ingrained a love to various mechanisms as well. If anything, even the simplest things like a grinder or a hand tool broke, he would help his father fix it. His parents saw how he loved tools and made a small workshop for him in a shed where Ferruccio made tools necessary for farm work and also made some mechanisms of his own design. So one day while casting something, there was a small explosion in the shop that almost burned down the entire farm. Now thankfully the fire was put out in time, but that incident did nothing to stop Lamborghini's interest in continuing his experiments. Now after elementary school, Ferruccio went to a technical institute in Cento, where he was able to receive a blacksmith license. Then, defying his father's desire for him to continue the family business, Ferruccio went to work as an apprentice for Ferrioli, where he learned the secrets of welding and making cast iron. In 1934, thanks to his perseverance, Lamborghini was able to get a job in the Cavalieri shop in Bologna. This shop had an army contract, so it was one of the most important ones in the city. Earning a small weekly salary, Ferruccio used that money to buy his first motorcycle. At 18 years old, Ferruccio went home to Renazzo and opened a shop with his friend Marino Filippini. They were both young and happy then and organized races on the village streets, using motorcycles and cars that fell into their hands. Now, when the war started in 1939 and Ferruccio was called to the army, he ended up on the island roads, which is under Italy's control. That base serviced and repaired all the military cars on the island, which let Ferruccio study modern Italian and foreign technology. Now, soon after, thanks to his hard work and constant presence in the center of everything important at the base, Ferruccio was promoted to shop boss. Earning even more trust from his superiors, he was soon the only person to be trusted in repairing the higher-ups' personal cars. The island was captured in 1943 by the Germans, who learned that Lamborghini used to be the head of the shop and personal mechanic for the upper management. Now, they understood that his talents would be wasted in prison, so they decided to let him open up a shop where he could sometimes fix cars, but mostly fixed local machines. When the war ended, Rhodes was transferred to England, but Ferruccio was only able to return home in the summer of 1946. He went home to be with his future wife, Celia Monti, who he met on the island, and who was born in the North Italian Ferrara region. He used the knowledge he gained during the war in his peacetime life. When he got home, he was busy with work immediately, fulfilling one order after another, but then fate would deal him a heavy blow. In April 1947, when his first child Antonio was born, his young wife died. Lamborghini was grieving, but realized the only thing that would save him was work and the remnants of his dreams. By the end of 1947, not a single piece of farming equipment remained in his hometown that he had not personally worked on. Recognizing his knowledge and work were popular, he decided to found a small tractor company with 3 other mechanics and 2 million liars. They would use engines and differential gears from abandoned military trucks. They started putting their first tractor together called the Carioca that was entirely designed by them. Now, the first few tractors were offered to local farmers. And they were fairly satisfied with the engineering and placed dozens more orders a few months later. 6 months later, the amount of tractor orders were so great that the company could no longer keep up. That's when Ferruccio decided to increase the tractor production. Thanks to his father, Ferruccio was able to get a loan from the Cento bank for 10 million lires. He used that money to buy 1,000 Morris engines and hire more workers. That's when his first creation was born, called the Lamborghini Story. The company used a triangle as its emblem, with rays going from the center to the corners. Each part had a letter, F, L, or C, or Ferruccio Lamborghini Cento, written in it. They sold 50 units in the first year and 250 in the second. The Lamborghini tract was in demand for its low price and its simple assembly and quality service. The company grew very quickly. Farming wasn't the only way to live anymore in post-war Italy. The amount of workers grew annually, new equipment was purchased, and the factories grew. By the early 60s, the company had 400 employees and made 25 to 30 tractors a day. The name, Ferruccio Lamborghini, became famous in and out of Italy. The company also acquired a subsidiary that arranged the launch of gas boilers called the Lamborghini Bruciatori Condizionatori that were necessary in Italy then. Here, we've come to the main question. So how did Ferruccio transition to manufacturing cars? Well, it's quite simple, actually. Despite his professional interest in the tractor business, Lamborghini was also a car lover and often impressed his own cars by adding his own designs. So, for example, the first car he had was the Fiat 500 Topolino, but his heart belonged to sports cars. His first sports car was the Alfa Romeo 1900 Sprint that lost its place in his garage to the Lancia Aurelia B20. Then in 1955, he decided to buy a Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, but was quickly disappointed by it and sold it. He ended up changing cars so frequently that he himself said, because there was just an amount of inadequacies that were only found through use. And it didn't matter if it was a Ferrari or a Maserati. According to Ferruccio, no car was perfect. At different times, he had several Maserati 3500 GTs, as well as Jaguar E-Types, but preferred the Ferrari 250 GT. Additionally, owning a Ferrari is what moved Ferruccio to develop his first car. Something additionally happened on one amazing day. When asked, how did the first Lamborghini car come about? Ferruccio Antonio, his son, gave the answer in an interview after his father had already passed away. One day, Ferruccio went to Enzo Ferrari's factory to complain about the quality of the coupling in his Ferrari 250 GT that stopped working despite frequent repairs at a Ferrari shop. Father just wanted to talk to Enzo and maybe even suggest how to fix that problem, but to his surprise, hot-blooded Ferrari sent Father back to where he came from and told him to keep making his tractors, calling him a provincial farmer and that he knew nothing about cars, let alone sports cars. Ferruccio Lamborghini answered, "I'll show you how a real car should look and ride." Then, angered Lamborghini decided to finish his own Ferrari. The first thing that he did was buy and install a new coupling. Then he threw away the Ferrari cylinder head group and installed a new one that he made himself in his tractor factory. When he put the engine back in the 250 GT, Ferruccio installed 6 horizontal mounted carburetors and his additions were complete. That car easily passed the Ferrari test drivers on the roads. Then he realized, well, why should I remake other cars if I can just make my own? So in 1962, Ferruccio traveled around Spain and visited the rancho of famous bullfighter Don Eduardo Mura. Lamborghini was born under the sign of Taurus and was so impressed by Mura's magnificent animals, he decided to use the bull as his emblem for his future company. it's worth noting that many Lamborghini cars will have the names of bulls that defeated matadors. In early 1963, he started building his factory not far from Enzo Ferrari's factory, but Ferruccio didn't want to slow down. His first cars needed to be made in the tractor factory, and he was helped by former Ferrari specialists he was able to take. The car was made from scratch in just 4 months and was ready when his shop in Turin opened in October 26, 1963. The prototype was called the Lamborghini 350 GTV, although it was hard to call it ready. The engine didn't fit under the hood and had to be put to the side, but the design was a call-out to all the standards of the time. The unusual headlights, the pointed nose, and the lines along the center of the hood cutting the car in two made many people say it was stupid and that Lamborghini had no chance. He would have a financial crash, and his ambitious plans to make the best car in the world was destined to fail. But the car became something new and different from everything else at the time. Now, less than 6 months later, in March 1964, Ferruccio showed his first car called the Lamborghini 350 GT. The car had significantly changed and received flattering reviews. The assembly began in May 1964 in a new factory. The car fulfilled Ferruccio's dreams. Then until now, the Lamborghini car line is considered one of the symbols of a luxurious life, of beauty, and of speed around the whole world. And that's a topic for another, but no less interesting story. In 1974, after selling his car company, it's worth noting that Ferruccio kept the rest of his business and bought 740 acres of land with property called La Fiorita on the seacoast. First, he went there to relax and hunt, but then he started growing grapes that he used to make wine that won awards. He traveled a lot and spent time with his family. He also made golf carts, one of which was made personally for Pope John Paul II. Ferruccio Lamborghini lived a long, fruitful life, and his name will always be written in gold in the history of the car manufacturing world. So, which Lamborghini car do you like? Which one are you going to buy someday? We can all dream, right? Well, that's all for today. Be sure to like the video and leave a comment too if you can. See you next time.